for. Sean Fraser is the federal housing minister, and he's with us now. Hi, Minister Fraser. Good to see you. Thanks for making the time again.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me.
On the announcement today, Minister, I remember being at the cabinet retreat back in August where Professor Mike Moffat was telling you and your colleagues to do exactly what you did announce today. Why did you wait 4 months to pursue it?
There's a number of policies that we've been rolling out over the past few months, some of which were actually discussed at that same cabinet retreat that you referred to. I'd point you to the fact that we've since reduced the GST on apartment construction. We've put more low-cost financing in place. We've advanced measures that are reducing red tape at municipalities and continue to move through new policy items. But this is a big one. Learning from the lessons of the past to establish a catalog of pre-approved designs is going to help us build homes more quickly, and we're going to be able to use cost-efficient, labor-efficient, and energy-efficient designs to make it easier to build homes in this country. So we're going to continue to implement good ideas as we have an opportunity to move forward with these exciting policies.
How much more quickly do you anticipate, Minister, it will enable those homes to be built, and how many more new homes do you anticipate this policy measure will inform?
Since you've pointed to Mike Moffat, who I have a lot of respect for, his own commentary indicates that this kind of a process, if implemented properly, could actually reduce the time to build by up to 12 months, which would be a game changer in the construction industry in Canada. It's difficult to say at this stage, before we've had an opportunity to complete the consultation, exactly how many homes we expect to result, because it'll depend on a number of factors, including whether factories actually set up to meet the heightened demand that we will see for certain kinds of designs. We look forward to seeing what the results will be, but the first stage will be launching a consultation beginning in January, and as we complete that process, we'll have a better understanding of the anticipated return on investment with this policy change.
And how long do you anticipate that consultation process will take? And I ask, of course, against the backdrop of the crisis as it exists right now and the speed with which people are hoping they'll see change.
Certainly. So we are launching the consultation in January. I am hopeful that we're going to have designs available in the next calendar year. My goal is to have them ready for the fall. But we should acknowledge as well, to the extent that new technologies emerge, we don't want to shut down the opportunity to contribute to a design catalog. I look at an emerging technology like 3D printing, for example, and should in the years ahead new technologies emerge, we want an opportunity to create this catalog as a living document, so to speak, that can be modified to embrace new technology as it emerges. But we do expect in 2024 to have designs available for use by the public.
You mentioned the suite of policy measures that your government has announced since that cabinet retreat in August. And I wanted to ask you when you anticipate that plan in sum will start to meaningfully increase supply. Housing starts were up 1% year over year in the first half of 2023 in Canada's 6 largest census metropolitan areas, Toronto and Vancouver. They did see an increase, but Montreal, Ottawa, and Edmonton saw a decline. So when do you anticipate a meaningful impact with what you've announced so far?
Well, there's signs that are very encouraging when I look at some recent data that's been published. There's been a significant increase year over year in building permits that have been issued, and we've seen an increase in residential home construction, investment rather, in residential home construction of about 7.3%. It's difficult to discern exactly the reasons that you see this very encouraging sign. Suffice it to say, the sum total of the measures we put forward are having an impact. As we continue to roll out new measures, I expect you're going to see a heightened impact of the policies that we put in place. But to answer your question, my sense is that we're already starting to see an impact in terms of the investments that are being made and the permits that are being issued, which typically would result in an increase in housing starts in the months and years that follow.
Can you be more specific about when you do anticipate to see those starts increase and meaningfully so, once again, because of course that will overall impact the affordability for Canadians right across this country of being able to actually purchase a home?
That's right. I expect to see them soon. And in fact, we have seen a modest increase in housing starts already. But when you see an increase of the magnitude that we've seen with building permits and a 7.3 increase in investment in residential construction, you would usually see in a period of months the trend to move in a positive direction. Of course, there are other factors at play, including the rate of interest set by the Bank of Canada, including the cost of materials and supplies, which can fluctuate. So I hesitate to put a specific date on the calendar. But if the trend holds over the next few months, I would expect that you continue to see housing starts move in the right direction.
How much more can we expect from your government on the supply side of things when it comes to housing? The sum total of your announcements so far, according to your office since the summer, 250,000 homes or units over 10 years or 45,000 in 3 to 4 years. That is, with all due respect, a drop in the bucket compared to what the CMHC says is necessary to restore affordability by 2030. They're saying an additional 3.5 million units above and beyond what's already planned.
Yeah, so I appreciate that there is a long way to go. We have a lot of work to do ahead, but there's no question we've made serious progress over the last few months. And although more than 250,000 housing starts in a given year may not put us on track to hit the 3.5 million that we need over the next few years, it's also not far off the all-time record in terms of housing starts in this country. I believe that we can significantly increase the pace of building beyond the all-time record. The strategy to do that is going to involve us continuing to introduce measures to make the math work for builders, including the GST that we put in place, but we're looking at additional measures. We also need to continue to invest in affordable housing and community housing to ensure that low-income families have a place to live. But there are other exciting developments that we're working on, including an industrial strategy of which the catalog of pre-approved designs forms a part, and we're going to continue to put measures in place that reduce red tape at a municipal level so we can make sure that we're clearing the blockages in the pipeline at every step of the way. But when we are done, I expect we're going to have a suite of policies that's going to dramatically increase the pace of building and get us much closer to the target outlined in the CMHC supply gap report of a few months ago.
What does much closer mean? Because 250,000, it's not nothing, and I don't mean to insinuate that it is, but it is not anywhere close. When you are done with the full suite of policy measures, is it your objective to get to 3.5 million, or do you concede that because of this, the lateness with which you're addressing this, that's probably impossible?
It's what I'm working toward. I'll acknowledge it will be an uphill battle to build that much more quickly than we are now. But keep in mind, the federal government is not the only player in this space. If we're going to succeed and reach that target of 3.5 million, this needs to be a Team Canada effort. We need to work closely with the provincial and territorial governments. We need to bring municipalities on board. We need to engage the private sector, the nonprofit sector, and Indigenous leadership to continue to build as quickly as we possibly can. So from a federal point of view, my goal is to advance every policy change that we can that's going to have a positive impact to make that 3.5 million number possible, but we cannot do it alone. We need participations of our partners at other levels of government and the people who are actually going to build the homes in the construction sector, and we're working toward putting a plan in place now that will help us achieve that goal.
If you can't completely reach the objective as set out by the CMHC on the supply side, is it time for your government to be more aggressive on the demand side? And by that I mean specifically the primary factors which have contributed to population growth, namely temporary residents. And in this case, I'll be more specific. Why is your government not considering a cap on temporary, international students, and temporary foreign workers?
Look, you've pointed to a very important issue. My sense is that there's not a strong understanding between the difference between permanent residency numbers and temporary residency numbers, and I appreciate that you focused singularly on the challenge we have with our temporary programs. For the benefit of viewers, our temporary programs in Canada have been driven by demand, not by levels set by one level of government or another. I was actually pleased to see Minister Miller make a big step in this direction with changes to the international student program. We frankly have institutions who've been abusing this program for their own financial gain and exploiting students who come to Canada along the way. By changing the income threshold required to take part in the program, by establishing a trusted partner model so the institutions who actually provide housing to their students get preferred access to study permits, I think we're going to have a serious difference in the impact of that program on the housing market in Canada. There may be more that we need to look at doing, but my sense is now that we're moving down this path, in particular with a trusted partner model, we should let that play out to determine what kind of an impact it will have. But as Minister Miller pointed out, if provincial governments continue to permit designated learning institutes to bring in students in an unlimited way without cracking down on the bad actors, we'll be willing to take further steps, and it may require us to look at options to even shut down some of the bad actors where that may be possible. But our first goal is to work with institutions and provinces to see if we can solve the problem that way.
Sure. With all due respect, though, do we as a country have time to wait out and wait to see and let it play out? Wait to see what the impact of it is. Again, I would not insinuate that what Mr. Miller announced isn't significant. It is, but we are only able to project what a difference that would make in temporary residents. A cap on either temporary foreign workers or international students would impart certainty, which of course would impact the demand side of the equation when your government is, as you said, has having this very steep hill ahead to try and fulfill the supply side.
Well, one of the things that you've got to be careful when you look at these policy decisions is to examine the impact of the counterfactual as well. Keep in mind when we're dealing with our temporary foreign worker program, because we insist on a labor market impact assessment, we're dealing with jobs that employers need to have filled where they cannot find a Canadian to do the job. So we have to monitor the balance between making sure that we're growing our housing capacity with our population growth, and also making sure that after several years of floating the business community to make sure they're still here after the pandemic, that they don't shut down. We don't want to deny key workers to businesses that the economy actually needs.
But if they don't have a house to live in, what's the effectiveness of that?
Well, it's essential that we look at both sides of the ledger, is my point. And we're doing what we can to accelerate the pace of building as fast as can reasonably be expected, as fast as could be possible. At the same time, we're looking at new measures, in particular on the international student program, to ensure that the people who are coming here are provided with a place to live by the institutions that have taken them on to study and are charging very high tuition fees in order to benefit from their participation in their academic course of study.
Okay, Minister, I'm out of time. I'll leave it there. I appreciate the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.